What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So, we had our first weekend with the next generation systems, and for the most part, everyone was having a lot of fun. However, several issues have now been pointed out for the PlayStation 5. A lot of you even messaging me about it, so we looked into some of them, and we'll go over some of the most common ones here that seem to be going around, and maybe we'll see something from Sony coming up kind of soon with different patches. Also, we do have a look now at what appear to be some of Microsoft's Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S sales, and turns out, at least in one region, they managed to beat the Xbox One on its launch day. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton, and if you're brand new here, hit the red subscribe button down below, and we're gonna start today with TimeSplitters and THQ Nordic. Now, we know THQ Nordic has the rights to TimeSplitters, and a lot of us expect them to do something with it. Even if it's a basic re-release, THQ Nordic does that a lot. Like, they'll take older games that they get and they'll just kind of move them up to the Switch and the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox, but then they'll also go back and they'll remake some of them. We saw Red Faction as an example pretty recently, but it looks like TimeSplitters 2 could be next. Check this out. Over with Spellforce 3, that came out pretty recently, and in this game, there is a screenshot and a video circulating now showcasing one item in particular that was collected, saying TimeSplitters 2 Remake, with a description mentioning that it is on the way. Now, a few other items in here reference other games coming soon from THQ Nordic, which includes things like Biomutant Gothic Remake, where there's also SpongeBob SquarePants remaster also. So, yeah, I do think there will be something with TimeSplitters. When? That's a good question. I'd like to think it's going to be this year with a fairly standard remake of some kind, at least them showing it, but I do wonder if they have plans for a brand new TimeSplitters further down the line. Maybe they'll see how this remake does and the response, see if the TimeSplitters name can still bring in sales and money, and then they'll go from there. Also, while we're going to get into some of the PlayStation 5 issues that are going around, there seems to be one weird thing going on for a default option with the system, and that has to do with buying a game that is cross-generation, so on the PS4 and also on the PS5, like Call of Duty as an example that just came out. And when you buy that version of the game, it installs in the PS5, and then it by default will launch the PlayStation 4 version that you play through backwards compatibility, which means you won't get any of the really cool new features, ray tracing, others with Call of Duty. So what you have to do is when you go into the game, before hitting play, there's those three dots next to it. You go there, you press that, and you say, I want to play the PlayStation 5 version, not the PlayStation 4 version. It's very strange that it defaults to the last generation version of the game. I don't really know why that would be. It's just probably something that Sony has to change around in an update, and there are going to be quite a few updates, I think, coming out from Sony in the next month easily, probably starting as soon as this week coming up, because we are starting to get a lot of reports for different things, but this was one that just was like kind of a head scratcher. Also, that Mario Game & Watch came out this past week, Friday. I picked one up, did a video on it, did a teardown as well as kind of giving my thoughts on it. It's a pretty cool device. It's $50, however, and I don't know how much else is really there to do with it outside of play some Mario games you may have already played, at least I would assume. But some are wondering if there is a future for this device if it is hacked and opened up and able to do other things with it. Well, turns out someone already hacked the system before it even came out. You can see this tweet over here by Stack Smashing saying success and yes, and you can see it says hacked right there on the screen. Now, when I took the system apart, I don't really know how much you're going to do with this little handheld. There's really not a lot going on inside. It's not using a very powerful chip at all. It's fairly low powered, and there's not a lot of storage on board. So I guess maybe you could change out the NES ROMs with like another NES ROM or two NES ROMs, but like, I just don't know how much could happen here. Sure, it's fun just to do it and say, yeah, we already hacked this little Game & Watch system that Nintendo randomly put out in 2020, but we'll see if much actually comes from it other than just being able to do it. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. We're starting right away with the PlayStation 5 issues that are kind of popping up now since launch and since we've had like the last 4 days or so to kind of play it and see what we have here with this system. Now, I will say the vast majority, I would assume, are working, but as we as early adopters, we take on that risk of, okay, I'm buying this system. It's an unknown technically for a lot of us right now, and there is a chance that it could be broken. That's why that warranty is there. However, right now, from what I've been able to gather after talking to people, it's about 3 to 4 weeks turnaround to send your PS5 in and get a new one back from Sony. So keep that in mind. It's going to be a bit of a wait if you have an issue with your PlayStation 5. And there seem to be several popping up, so much so now that the subreddit for PS5 has actually opened up an entire thread kind of going through the different issues with different error codes that are being kicked back that they've created an entire spreadsheet for, and basically just tips and ideas as to how to get around some of these problems. And starting from the top, of course, DualSense connectivity issues, but a lot of those seem to be more so with the controller itself, not necessarily the system. So quick change out at your local Best Buy or Target with a receipt and warranty that they should have. Hopefully some extras there to change that one out. But another one seems to come back to that external hard drive. And this is a cause for concern for me because you look at the PS5 right now, and the one part that just didn't seem ready at all was any way to store stuff off of the system. We don't have the NVMe storage at all ready to go, and the external hard drive is only used like in limited capacities. PS4 games can be stored on it. However, some are finding that when in rest mode, having PS4 games stored on the external hard drive can cause issues and even crashes on the PlayStation 5, resulting in rebuilding your database when you turn it back on, which leads people to say, don't use an external hard drive, apparently. That's like one of the big tips right now is maybe wait a bit until the external hard drive. I haven't really played around with one too much with my PlayStation 5 as I'm playing a set number of games right now and I haven't filled up the drive yet, nothing like that, but it does make you a bit concerned when leaving that little hard drive plugged in off to the side. Another slightly minor issue that is being brought up a lot right now has to do with noise coming from the PlayStation 5. And this is a funny one because Sony made the system quiet on the side of the fan, so you don't have this jet engine taking off in your room, which you'd be like, oh, there, that's the PlayStation 4 Pro going crazy again because Kratos is on screen. Guess I'll put my headphones on and ignore it. No, this has to do with this humming noise or this buzzing noise that's coming from the PlayStation 5. And after I had so many videos sent to me about this, people wondering what it is, my best guess here would be coil whine. That is what a lot of people are assuming now as well, and it's something that we've dealt with video cards specifically, but also power supply. I've seen it with power supplies a few times too. But video cards for me, I've had 2 out of many video cards that I've owned that did this. The GTX 770, I think, is the most recent one. I got lucky with the GTX 970 because that was a pretty bad offender for coil whine. Didn't have it with that, but I had this really annoying, like, loud pitched noise coming from my GTX 770 at like all times. And that's basically what it is. Inside of these video cards or on these boards or even in those power supplies or most electronics actually, you would have some form of coil whine. It just depends if it's audible to you or not. See, when electricity goes through these devices, like your video card as an example, you have these little coils inside that act as inductors. That's where the name comes from. And as a ton of electricity goes through it, or some, you'll have different ways of it vibrating and will create actual frequency, and you'll be able to hear it if you are sensitive to high-pitched noise. That's why there are videos now where people say, I don't hear anything at all. Seriously, there are some times where you would have coil whine and you wouldn't even know it because you just can't hear it. Is that an issue for the PS5? If it annoys you, I guess, yes, but in terms of it actually breaking down and being an issue where your PS5 is just gonna shut off because it has coil whine, probably not. There are video cards that have probably been running for years now with coil whine, and it's perfectly fine. It's like just really a side effect of a system or device that's using a bunch of electricity. But the biggest issue seems to be, and it's very strange, is rest mode. People right now are terrified of leaving their PlayStation 5 in rest mode, so much so that they just tell you don't even use it right now. They just go to turn off PS5. And that's because, from what I can tell, some reviewers and people who are doing previews of the system just said, hey, I had my PS5, it had Spider-Man Remastered, that's the big one that people are pointing to, kind of in like suspend mode, and I had the system in rest mode, and then I went back and everything was corrupted. I had to rebuild the database, but it wouldn't rebuild, and it just kept doing that over and over again. That appears to be something that's happened to ACG. We talked about that a bit over on Twitter, mentioned that the PS5 he was previewing had an issue that came down to seemingly the storage or the controller for the SSD having a serious malfunction, and several people are reporting this that there are issues in rest mode with this system. Now, rest mode's always been a strange one because the system can do some wonky stuff in rest mode, but yeah, the PS5 right now doesn't seem to be the most stable, although I've had my system in rest mode quite a bit, and I have not run into any of these issues. So like I said before, not every system is experiencing this. In fact, I would say most are not, but there does seem to be a set number of people that are having problems here, which of course is, okay, Sony, we're probably gonna need some patches soon to get this stuff taken care of. A lot of stability patches being put out there, hopefully in the next couple weeks. But I will leave a link down below to the Reddit post that is collecting a lot of information. You can go there and post any of your experiences with issues around your PlayStation 5, as right now we're in the information gathering phase, trying to bring as much together with error codes and experiences so we can figure out what not to do and what to tell Sony to fix. Next up, let's talk about the start for the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S when it comes to overall sales, specifically in the UK. Now, VGC did have the report on this one. You can see that here, where it says, according to publishers speaking to VGC, Xbox Series X and S sold around 155,000 consoles on launch day, beating the previous record of 150,000, which Xbox One managed in its first 2 days on sale in 2013. They go on to say the UK is Xbox's second biggest market outside of the US. Now, to go a little further, they were pretty far off of what the PS4 did in its first 2 days. In the UK, it was like 250,000 units. So yeah, the Xbox did manage to beat the Xbox One, but came up well short of the PlayStation 4. And that, you know what? That's not bad for a system that really doesn't have anything pushing you heavily to getting it. Like, if Halo Infinite was there and it was just a Series X and S exclusive and there was not even an Xbox One version, then a lot of people probably would look at that and say, well, I need to get the new system to play the new Halo. That's how, I mean, it worked before with the original Xbox, and actually that was the last time we really had a Halo game, from what I remember, launching alongside of a platform. But really looking at this, it's not a bad start for Microsoft after how bad the Xbox One did, especially after it came out and people really looked at that versus the PS4 and they were like, nah, I think I'll go with the PS4. It doesn't come with the spy camera. It's also $100 cheaper. Yeah, I'll stick on that. Now, it's not a bad start for Microsoft with the Xbox Series X and the S, able to beat the Xbox One. While it's 2 days for the Xbox One and 1 day for the Series X and the S, I mean, the Series X and the S are already sold out anyway, so it's like, I don't think the days matter too much as the initial launch really just sold through, but at least being able to beat out the Xbox One is a good start. And now it's gonna be curious to see how they do in Japan, because we will get hard numbers from Famitsu there, and then eventually the NPD, where we find out a bit more about how Microsoft's new systems managed to sell. But so far, so good, it seems, at least for Microsoft and their Xbox Series. Oh, and while we're over with the UK sales, let's actually go over to the UK sales charts. You can see those here because that does include next generation titles. Even though the PS5 is not out yet, some of the games already sold for the PS5. People just getting ready. It's out this week on the 19th in Europe, but we can see the chart here starting at the top. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, that's right. Assassin's Creed managed to outsell Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Now, these are physical box sales in the UK. These don't include digital sales, and according to Activision, Call of Duty had a massive slide towards digital. So we'll see if we hear any more about numbers on that end, but Call of Duty there at number 2. Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales at 3, and that was heavily in favor of the PS5 version. Once again, people kind of stocking up for the PS5 when that releases this week. FIFA 21 slid down to number 4. Animal Crossing New Horizons there at 5. Demon's Souls, look at that, at number 6. Again, a PS5 only title, but people getting ready. And then we have Super Mario 3D All-Stars at 7, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at 8, Minecraft at 9, and then Watch Dogs Legion at 10. Now, I will admit, I was a little surprised on Assassin's Creed Valhalla and its overall performance because it more than doubled the box sales of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, but I do wonder if some of that has to do with next generation, at least the Xbox being there, and you look at that and you say, well, I mean, Assassin's Creed Valhalla is 4K 60 on the new Xbox. Maybe I'll just pick that up with it. Seriously, that could have been a big driving factor for Assassin's Creed Valhalla just to be there at launch alongside of the system. And then Call of Duty just came out pretty recently. But still, looking at this, a good start for Assassin's Creed. I'll be curious to see how it stays at the top or if it really drops down dramatically or not. And then we'll find out more about Call of Duty sales, because I'm sure Activision will release some sort of press release this week, just kind of telling us about how amazing the sales were for Call of Duty, basically like every year. In our last bit of news, let's talk about Capcom being hacked and then held at ransom, it seems, for data that was stolen then by hackers. And what seems to have happened here was about a terabyte of data was stolen, and the hackers then asked for millions of dollars from Capcom to have it back. Capcom appears to have refused, and what's happened is 60 gigabytes of that terabyte has now been released onto the internet, just showing some information, maybe as like a warning shot, like, hey, we really will release this if you don't start ponying up some money here. But it seems like, I guess, Capcom is holding steady. And honestly, looking at the stuff that they've released so far, it's nothing that Capcom would be like, all right, what, Monster Hunter Rise could be going to PC? Maybe. That's one of the things that is in here. And outside of that, it sounds like right now there may be some information for employees, and that would be a bit of a concern for Capcom on that. But some of the big things they have, and you can see they listed some of them here on Reddit as they were going through it, and some of the information was getting out there online. This includes some things for Resident Evil Village, like, as an example, the April launch, maybe a demo even before release, but that's not surprising. We've had Resident Evil demos for a lot of Resident Evil releases very recently. There was also an Ace Attorney collection, which seems to be listed for PS4 and maybe Switch. There's a new Switch exclusive IP under Guillotine, it appears, and then Monster Hunter Rise on PC, which that would be kind of neat. I don't know, that would be a good thing to have there alongside the Switch, especially if you could transfer your data back and forth. I think that'd be great to see. And then Resident Evil 4 VR. That's interesting. And then no one really cared, but there was source code for Devil May Cry 2. It's like, oh, Devil May Cry 2 source code. Who's going to spend the time downloading that, right? Now we'll see if this situation evolves any further. They said 60 gigabytes has been released so far, and the only way this could get really bad is if there really is a lot of information for different employees with personal info, and that starts getting out there. That could be really bad for Capcom. So that would be the only thing I think that would kind of push them to really focus in on this and maybe get some authorities or others involved if they are not already. But like, projects that they were working on or things they were thinking about doing, to me, isn't that big of a deal. A source code for an older game, I don't know. Maybe if it was like if it was Resident Evil Village, that would be a problem, like immediately. But here we are now with Capcom having some of their older projects thrown out there. We'll see if anything else happens from this, but hey, Monster Hunter Rise on PC and Switch would be a pretty cool combo. That was like one of the big things that I took out of this, and I guess Resident Evil 4 in VR, because why not? I mean, it's been everywhere else. Why not? And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Zcat saying, in my eyes, Nintendo selling 100 million Switches is more impressive than it selling 100 million Wii systems. The difference is that many of the people who picked up the Wii got it because it was interesting, not for gaming. Grandparents just got it to play Wii Sports. The Switch lends itself much better to real gaming, and there is pretty much no other reason to get it. To sum it up, the Switch is a much more successful gaming system. I would agree with you there, because there were a lot of people who bought the Switch and Wii Sports, and that was it. Maybe they got Wii Play or Just Dance, but they didn't buy it to play Zelda. And that was weird because the Zelda Twilight Princess launched alongside of it, but a lot of people didn't even buy it if they weren't really into gaming and they just liked the idea of the bowling stuff that was going on. Seriously, that was enough for them. It came with the one game they really wanted to buy. So I get what you're saying. The Wii hit this, like it was lightning in a bottle. And then they messed it up with the Wii U. But now they're back with the Switch, and it is selling to people who are much more interested in some of these core games and core franchises from Nintendo, and that's why you see the attach rate so high for the Switch right now. So yes, I would say the Switch will absolutely be the most successful home console from Nintendo, and it will also end up being the most impressive. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button, it really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. There's the PlayStation 5 issues kind of popping up around launch now that a ton of people have their hands on Sony's latest console. Are you running into any problems with your PS5? Let me know about that down below. And then what do you think about Microsoft's start so far with this next generation of consoles from them with the Xbox Series in the UK? I mean, they can't really go backwards from the Xbox One necessarily with how that started and ended up going with that Kinect and the higher price and all of this, but who knows? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.